Hello and welcome to Music with Mason. My name is Mason Fall. I am here joined with the lead singer of the devil metal band None Slaughter, the one and only Dawn of the Dead.
Violent procreation is the only way I know.
How are you doing today, Dawn?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for calling, man. I'm stoked to do an interview with you.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, this is incredible to have you here on my show. So, yeah, just to get started, None Slaughter, most notable for your songs, Red is the Color of Ripping Death, Below the Cloven Hoof, and even Beware of God, which are just amazing songs. And then you guys are going to be soon playing at Piper's Pub in Pompano Beach in Florida, alongside Tombs, Profanatica, and even Extinguished. So, how did you get into that show in Florida?
Well, we're doing a whole tour with Profanatica. So I've known Paul Ledney and Profanatica for pretty much since they started. But I never actually got to meet him or see Profanatica until a couple months ago. They were doing a tour on the kind of the East Coast, and they came through Cleveland, and Paul and I finally had a chance to sit down and talk about our bands and what we've been up to for the past 30 plus years. And he mentioned that they were organizing a tour, and I said, well, if we're available, let's do it together. So, yeah, we're doing 18 dates with Profanatica coming up starting February 13th, I believe.
All right. So you guys going to be traveling all across the country or just Florida?
No, we're going from basically, I think we got 4 or 5 shows in Canada all the way down to Florida, hitting different markets than they did their last run, which was about 6 months ago. It's actually hitting quite a few markets that None Slaughter's never been in as well. So it should be good. Hopefully people come out to see 2 old school blasphemous bands and are interested in what kind of music we're playing.
Yeah, right on. I mean, that's got to be interesting. You guys are really big. So have you ever played in Canada before?
Yeah, we've done probably maybe less than a dozen shows in Canada over the years. Couple of fests, and I think we did a 5-date tour. Oh, this must have been 10, 12 years ago. So it's not our first time in Canada. We haven't really done much on the West Coast, mainly stuck to Montreal, Toronto, Quebec, that kind of this area here in the East. But so we've hit, I think, all those cities before. Just some people weren't even into this music when we were there last. So
yeah,
being around for so long, you're like, oh, we played your city, and they're like, when? And you're like, it was like 98. They're like, I wasn't born yet. You're like, oh, well, that's an issue.
Yeah.
But
yeah. So we're going to go back a little bit. So where did you exactly learn to sing?
Boy, I don't know if I've ever learned to sing. I'm inspired by a lot of the old school metalists, more along the lines of like Kronos and Jeff Becerra and Cam Lee, maybe even like a little bit of Evil Chuck early on, not the later stuff. But just as far as like it's aggressive, but it's relatable. Like you can understand what the singers are saying, because I like to hear things about the death of God and downfall of Christianity and Satan and hell, and I like to hear all those words in the music. And when it's muddled, sometime in the 90s, there was a backlash of satanic metal bands, but people wanted to get away from it, and people stopped doing all the great stuff that, let's say Slayer started off doing in Venom. But we've continued. We haven't given up on it, and neither is Profanatica as well. So, very, very blasphemous band.
Yeah, you gotta love. I mean, a lot of the older stuff. I mean, it's what created, dark and heavy metal stuff, just like that. So, yeah, you gotta love them, especially Slayer. My friends are in love with Slayer. So.
Yep.
This is a very generic question. I don't mean to put this heavyweight on you and you have to think a whole lot, but how exactly did the band just form? Like, how did it originally start?
Well, we started in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Currently, we're located in Cleveland, and we have been for the better part of, I think since 99 is when I moved here. So 25 years we've been in Cleveland, but we started in Pittsburgh, and how it basically started is me and some friends, we were in a band called Death Sentence, and this is about 85-ish, and three of us that were in the band were starting to get more into the death metal side of metal or heavy metal or thrash metal, and we wanted to take the band in a heavier and darker trajectory. So we talked about it, and the guy who played drums wanted to play guitar. Myself, who was the singer, I said, well, I'll play bass. And so we kind of all mixed up our roles, and also at the time there was no death metal bands in Pittsburgh, and we decided, a lot of the people, the older people that were in the music scene, kind of looked down on death metal as cheesy or generic or a fad or whatever. So we wanted to kind of put them in their place. So we came up with a band name and started jamming, and then. Unfortunately, I think it was sometime in 90. I think it was 91. The singer at the time, Greg, he didn't want to sing anymore. He wanted to do like more family stuff, get married, have kids, all this good stuff. And so I'd written a whole demo. I'd written the music and the lyrics, and decided to record it anyway, and there was no one else around. So I says, well, I'll just sing, see how that goes. And then here I am X amount of years later, still singing.
I mean, that's really how you stick it to the man. If, just back then, at the old days of punk rock and rock and roll, no one liked rock and roll at the time. So just being your first death metal band in Pittsburgh has got to be like really big. And especially when people have this huge, like factuation against death metal, but soon they end up coming around to it. That's just awesome, dude.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah. And then also, unbeknownst to us at the time, some of our cohorts in death metal, the guys from Sathanas, Paul Tucker, they were actually doing death metal. They just weren't in Pittsburgh proper. Greg Beal actually lived in the city of Pittsburgh. They lived about 40 plus minutes outside of Pittsburgh, and we didn't know that they were, this is before the internet and shit. So we didn't know they were also creating death metal, but it was outside of the city. But we kind of came up just about the same time. About 87 is when both bands started, but I'd like to claim the crown of the first death metal band in Pittsburgh.
Hey, man, you're at the core of Pittsburgh, so, you got to have that title. 40 minutes away from Pittsburgh isn't the same as Pittsburgh. So, but yeah. So I had a few questions for you. I noticed in a bio in a website that was based on you, it said you were a part of bands like Born from Fear and Grave Worm.
Yeah, I don't know where the Born from Fear came from, but uh, Graveworm, Kevin Fye, the creator of Graveworm, was a good friend of mine. We actually went to college together, and sometime in the mid 2000s, he moved to Cleveland, and this might have even been before he moved here, but he ended up recruiting Jim Status, who was a former Nunslaughter drummer, and myself, and we did a 7-inch EP under the title of Graveworm, and the 7-inch is called War Beast. And Kevin wrote all the lyrics, but I sung it, and then Jim from Nunslaughter played drums on it. But that other band, I Born from Fear, I'm unfamiliar with
Yeah.
being associated with them.
Some people got their facts wrong. And speaking of that, I noticed in a post you posted, it's someone misspelled San Francisco and your, your band name.
Yeah, Nunslinger.
Nunslinger. I mean, I don't know what kind.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, a lot of those. I don't know. Call them like pop metal or commercial metal magazines. They don't do any research. They don't know their genre, I guess you'd say. So I don't know how they'll be. It'd be different if it was a Nunslinger was actually a word, if you're going through spell check, and it would highlight Nunslaughter and change it to Nunslinger, but it isn't. So somebody purposefully had to type that in, and then of course you've got an editor or a proofreader, and they said, yeah, that's about right, and no research at all. But I mean, we've only been around for 37 years, I don't expect everybody to know.
But yeah, it sounds like a Kids Bop version of Nunslaughter, so Nunslinger.
Exactly, yeah.
But yeah. So I noticed in your personal Instagram, you post a lot of traveling pictures. I noticed that you've been to places like Puerto Rico and Romania and West Virginia. So like you've traveled basically all over the world. Like what can you say? Like how is it just traveling to so many different places?
It's freaking awesome. I'd have to say, so most of the places I've been have been with Nunslaughter, but in probably the past decade or so, I've just started traveling a lot and doing motorcycle trips with a friend of mine. And it's we just pick a country or a region and fly there, rent motorcycles. Usually we're camping out, in the woods or whatever, and just put a couple of miles on our butts and like to see the different countries and landscapes and nature and all that good stuff. But yeah, with Nunslaughter, I think I've been to 33 countries.
Oh my!
Yeah, so we've been in quite a few places,
Wow.
and that's what's interesting. I think people don't understand that this is a DIY. This is an underground death metal band. It has been from the beginning, and it is till this day. We do not have a record contract. We don't fuck with record labels. No, and in their defense, apparently they don't fuck with us. I don't know why, but we don't get any record offers or anything like that. But it hasn't dampened or deterred us from making shit happen on our own. So yeah, I mean, any bands out there, you don't think you need a label to carry you across the finish line. You can do all this shit on your own. Granted, it takes a lot longer, but I love it.
That's how, yeah, man. That's how, I'm a huge fan of punk rock, and that's how punk rock bands are. They don't do record deals. They just make their music with passion and then just release it to the world the way they can. They don't just sell out just like normal ass fucking celebrities. So yeah, you got to stick it to the man at some point if you're going to be a really good rock band, especially a devil metal band. So yeah. So I noticed in a more later post, like maybe like a year or two back, a fan got a tattoo of devil metal hordes on their arm.
Yeah.
So like,
yeah, there's quite a few folks out there with Nunslaughter tattoos, and I'm blown away. I think it's great.
So are there any other fans that you know, like something crazy that they like committed to, like a bigger tattoo on like their back, or just something crazy that they were just so committed to your band? Like, was there anything like that?
I've never seen a full back tattoo, but a lot of well, quite a few arm tattoos, biceps and forearms, and then a friend of mine, she has a tattoo on her upper thigh, and it's got to be 12 inches or more of the devil metal head, and so that might be the largest one that I know of on her leg. But yeah, I mean, I would have to say at almost every show, someone comes up to me with a Nunslaughter tattoo or a picture of their friend who has a Nunslaughter tattoo, and yeah, it means the world to me, man.
Yeah, it's just crazy how fans are just so committed to a band that they just get it permanently tattooed unless they find a way to get it covered up. But yeah, it's crazy.
Well, it's touching because with Nunslaughter, we have so many decades under our belt that there are people, and in fact, there's a guy in Hungary. The first time I met him was it had to be 15, 16 years ago. We played a show in Hungary, and we met him, and he was a nice guy and everything. And I met his kid, who couldn't have been maybe 9 or 10 at the time. So a little dude. Well, we went back about 3 or 4 years ago. We're playing Hungary. His band is opening. His son is playing guitar.
Wow.
And his son is like 6 foot tall now, and in his 20s, and so we got another picture together, X amount of years later. So it's kind of like a generational thing, which is just amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's like crazy to think about. You could be 40 and like metal just came out, and you could be loving it. Your son, who was probably 30 or 20, loving it, and then his son, 10 to like 16, just balling out to it, and then his kid's gonna end up liking it too, because it has to be. I mean,
yeah, hopefully.
But yeah, my dad totally introduced me to punk metal, and a lot more metal and rock and roll. So I love it. It's probably my favorite genre of all time. So you gotta love it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't know if you remember this, but you mentioned the Kanye family made you a quilt with Nunslaughter album covers on it. If you remember that at all.
Yeah, actually, I'm staring at it right now. It wasn't made for me. When Jim Kanye passed away, a friend of his family went in and grabbed a bunch of his old Nunslaughter shirts and tour shirts and whatnot, and for the memorial that we had, or that they put on for Jim, this person assembled a quilt with all or a bunch of Nunslaughter T-shirts, cut up, and that after the memorial, it passed to his brother John, and a couple of years ago, about 5 years ago, John contacted me, and he happens to live in Florida. He doesn't necessarily need a quilt, and he just said, "Hey, send me your address. I have something to send you." And I said, "Great." And then he sent it to me. So yeah, I proudly have it on my the bed in my guest room at my house. So it's proudly displayed.
Wow, I mean, that's just crazy. But yeah, that's awesome. So I don't know if you also know this, but 89.3 WCSB put you guys live on air, or was it just the song that they played for you guys, if you remember that at all?
Well, CSB, one of the DJs, his name's Mike Hughes. He does a radio show called The Day Man Lost, and he's been doing it for over 20 years. He's a very good friend of ours. We actually affectionately refer to him as the fifth band member. and we I'm sure he's played lots of Nunslaughter and live stuff, but we actually did a show for another college radio station here in Cleveland, Ohio, called WRUW, and they had, and this is probably 20 years ago. They had just received the green light for safe harbor. So basically, in radio, you're not supposed to say all those bad words on,
Oh yeah.
on the radio, or on the radio waves. But they had what was called safe harbor, and it started at like 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. And after that, you can play, anything you want. Dead Kennedy's Too Drunk to Fuck, and Fuck Off and Die from Boy. But you can play all this shit, anything with swearing. You don't have to dump it. And they were like, hey, we want to have Nunslaughter come in and do a live radio show for the very first show that they were having at Safe Harbor. And the production engineer just says, say whatever you want, push to the limit. And nobody should tell Jim that, because he really went off and just cursed as much as fucking possible. And it was, I tell you what, it's very, in my opinion, it was a fun live show, because we did it right in the radio, in the studio for the radio. But it's just funny to hear Jim off the top of his head come up with all these insults and profanity and all that stuff. So that's one of my, and then that actually came out on a release called Radio Damnation, and it's been pressed probably 6 or 8 times on LP, cassette, CD, and I think it's a fantastic release.
Yeah. I mean, the radio here at Iowa Central, they're very strict about it. Like, one cuss word or profanity slur and you're out for good. Like, they don't care. Like, you can't even make fun of anyone and you'll get put off of air. So, but yeah, I mean, if we could have an hour where we can cuss nonstop, I would have just released every single cuss word known to man, from English to probably some Taiwanese language down in Africa. But yeah. So you've already mentioned that you've played in so many different countries all across the world. Do you have a favorite country to play in?
Well, I'd have to say, I mean, we've probably played more shows in Germany than any other country other than the United States, So I do love playing in Germany, great crowds, but I'm not sure. I mean, some of the shows were so long ago. Like, we did a tour in Australia, and I'd love to be in Australia. It was nice and warm, and beautiful scenery and whatnot. But I don't know. I guess I'd have to say Germany. Really like playing Germany.
Yeah, I like Germany too. Isn't that where Rammstein's from, or is it like a more like
Rammstein is? No, I think they are German.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they are. Yeah, I think so.
But yeah, Germany, great country, but they know how to take care of devil metal bands. That's for sure. They gotta love hard rock down there.
We're always treated very well when we go to Germany.
Are we going to be seeing you guys play over there next in the future sometime? Because that'd be awesome.
Yeah, actually, there's talk of maybe sending Nunslaughter and Profanatica over there for a tour this year. I just was asked about it not more than 2 days ago, so got to see what's involved with that and how that can be organized. So we might be going over here. If not, if we don't go over to Europe this year, I already have plans for 2025, and that's going to be more Western Europe, I think, through Spain and Portugal. But probably land in Germany, do some shows, and then head over to Portugal, and hit that side of Europe, because we've never been in Portugal. We played shows in Spain, but never made it to Portugal yet.
So that country will be wrapped around your belt, so that'd be nice.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're leaving in a couple of months. We get just a one-off show down in Peru, in April, and that's the first time we're gonna go to that country as well. So it'll be 34 countries.
Nice. So we're going to go back to the lovely state of the United States of America, where rock and roll has really taken form, and a lot of really amazing bands have been there. So you've been all across the country of the United States. Do you have a favorite state in the United States that you'd like to play at?
I'd like to play in Hawaii. I used to live there. I lived there 96, I think 95, 96 to 99, right before I moved to Cleveland. And I've been back 4 or 5 times since then, but that'd be a great state for Nunslaughter to do a show in. And I've known some bands from the mainland here that have done shows there. So it's possible. We just got to figure out the financials of it.
But yeah, that would be awesome. Nunslaughter takes Hawaii. That just right there. That'd be awesome. So I have a very generic question. I ask a lot of people this, but if you could have one last meal before you die or you pass away, like what would it be and why?
Probably cabbage rolls.
Okay.
So I'm kind of Polish Hungarian descent, and it's one of my absolute comfort meals, and it's something that because it's pretty much it's very inexpensive to make, and so growing up, that's what we ate a lot of it. That and cabbage and noodles, and just pierogies and that kind of Slovak foods. So I'd probably have to say I'd probably eat cabbage rolls.
Okay. I mean, I wouldn't mind a cabbage
roll.
Made by my mom.
Specifically
by your mom. So if you want a cabbage roll, you got to get it from your mom.
Yeah.
So we're down to the last 2 questions here. I didn't know how fast this interview was going, but we're already almost to 30 minutes, so it's going pretty great so far. But what is the future for Nunslaughter? Are we going to be seeing more albums, more concert dates? Are we going to be seeing a single release? Like, what is the plan for Nunslaughter?
Well, we have, I want to say 8 or 9 songs completely finished and demoed. We're planning on June to record a full length. I don't think that we'll have any singles coming out before or by then. And then it's just a matter of doing shows. I prefer not to do one-offs, especially here in the United States. I don't necessarily mind traveling to Peru or Colombia or Argentina or something for a one-off, but we're trying to set up more longer tours here if we're doing them in the United States. Yeah, that's it. Record an album in June. Not sure who's going to put that out, but I'm sure we'll find something. And then do tours, keep writing music. I mean, we've got some cover songs that we've been working on. Hopefully we'll get those finished. And we actually did some Schnauzer songs. Jim Kanye was in a band called Schnauzer. They did it was like almost like power violence type of stuff. So all the people currently in the band Nunslaughter were fans of Schnauzer. So, boy, this has been probably a year or more. We went in and recorded drums and guitar for I think five Schnauzer songs. So maybe we might get those finished up this year and put out a Nun Schnauzer 7-inch. So the Nunslaughter covering Schnauzer songs.
That sounds awesome. So we're down to the final question here. I ask every single band and artist that I have on my show, what would you tell the young and aspiring musicians who really need the confidence and courage to just perform and just do what they love? Like right there, like what would you tell them?
I'd say, I mean, just kind of, and everybody said it before, stick to your guns. If you think you're doing something worthwhile and you're enjoying it, you don't have to kowtow to whatever sort of popular music. I also say just grind it yourselves. I think it's more satisfying. I mean, we haven't reached any sort of major success where everybody's, trying to hop on the Nunslaughter train or anything like that. But just keep doing what you're doing and don't look at just worry about tomorrow, not necessarily down the road. Like where do you see yourself in 5 years? Where do you see yourself in 10 years? Unfortunately, most of the people that get into music, and especially underground or aggressive music, they probably won't be in it in 10 years. And that has to do with many different things, like getting married, having kids, getting a job, losing a job, going in the army, going to college, all this kind of shit. And people just get out of it. For better or worse, I'm still here 40 years later, still involved in metal music and still wanting to do more, but I think I'm more of an exception than what most people are into. And if you're not successful today, you don't necessarily have to quit. You just have to keep at it.
Yeah,
I guess that's what I'd say.
That's really, you know what? That's probably one of the best answers I've gotten on this show. I mean, you've been in this music industry for a long time, and you're still at it. I mean, the grind doesn't stop. So, it's awesome.
Not.
It's awesome to see that you're still at it. And I'm glad that you're not.
Thank you.
I'm glad that you're not. But where can we find you on social media so people can look at more of your amazing artwork and amazing talent that you guys have?
Oh, thanks. It's nunslaughter.com is where people can go to buy stuff. That actually takes you directly to Hell's Headbangers, and they carry all of our products and merchandise. And then on Facebook it's just Nunslaughter, and Instagram nunslaughter.official, and that's where I post all the upcoming shows and upcoming releases, and even releases put out in different countries, different pressings and stuff, so people can, some people like to collect all the different pressings of some releases or all the releases. So those are really the three places, and people can always just email me, nunslaughter@gmail.com. Real easy to get a hold of. We're out there.
All right. Well, I'll definitely put all those into the description for all those who are willing to go down there and see the amazing death metal band of all time. So,
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, but thank you so much for joining me here, Don. This has just been one of the greatest interviews I think I've had on this channel. So, I'm totally interested in doing another one in the future. So keep in touch.
Yeah, absolutely. And shoot me that link as well, and I'll post it up on our, Facebook and Instagram or whatever. And very good talking to you, man. I appreciate the interview.
Yeah, no problem. We'll see you next time.
Have a good day, man. Bye-bye.
Bye. And that will do it for today's episode of Music with Mason. Nunslaughter. All right. I didn't think I would reach this point in my interview career where I got to just sit down and interview the lead singer of a devil metal band. It's crazy. It's a lot more entertaining than I believe I ever thought it would be. Super cool guy. You gotta love Nunslaughter, the really good devil metal band. So, just have at it. But again, if you guys really like this interview, please consider sharing this with all your friends and family. Make sure you subscribe so you can be notified of all of the interviews that come out. And there's going to be a lot more in the future. The 100 subscriber special is still in the works, so stay tuned for that. And as always, we will see you guys next time.